Yo, what's up everybody? It's Joey MTG coming with another historic Brawl video. Today we're going to be playing Korvold Fae-Cursed King. Korvold is a 4/4 flyer for 5 that has, whenever Korvold enters the battlefield or attacks, sacrifice another permanent. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, put a 1/1 counter on Korvold and draw a card. So the strategy of this deck is to get a lot of permanents that give you value for sacrificing creatures or sacrificing permanents such as treasures. Treasures are a great synergy with Korvold because you sack to add mana, you put a 1/1 counter on Korvold, and you'll draw a card. So we've got a lot of ways to make treasures in this deck with Goldspan Dragon, Old Gnawbone, Zeotora, Zorn to get a little extra, Gadrak. And we've also got a lot of sacrifice outlets. We've got Ashnod's Altar, we've got Mayhem Devil for payoffs, we've got Bastion of Remembrance, and we have Blood Artist somewhere in here. There it is. So Blood Artist is another payoff for sacking. We've got some combos in here that we can go infinite with. A lot of them revolving around Pitiless Plunderer. So whenever another creature I control dies, you can create a treasure token. So with Pitiless Plunderer, Ashnod's Altar, sacrifice a creature, add 2 colorless, and then Reassembling Skeleton, which is here. You can pay 1 and a black to return Reassembling Skeleton from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. These 3 go infinite because you'll generate 3 mana here with the treasure and the 2 colorless, and then you're sacking here to the Ashnod's Altar. It's a free sack outlet, so you're generating infinite colorless mana. And then you've got, if you have Mayhem Devil or Bastion of Remembrance or Blood Artist on the field, that's infinite draining gains. And then you got the same thing here with Pitiless Plunderer and Chatterfang. Chatterfang is if one or more tokens will be created under your control, those tokens plus that many 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens are created instead. So the idea is, if you got the Pitiless Plunderer and Chatterfang, you can sacrifice another creature. That'll trigger the token. That'll trigger Chatterfang to make a squirrel, and then you can infinitely sack Chatterfang's squirrel tokens, making infinite mana. And then, again, if you have one of these drain or ping outlets, that's infinite damage. So we've got a lot of ways to abuse the sacrifice mechanics going on that Korvold encourages, and hopefully we can really just abuse this and maybe combo off on one of our opponents. We've got a lot of other ways to win the game too outside of sacrificing games. We've got Revel in Riches, which will let us win the game on my upkeep if I have 10 or more treasures. We've got Bolas' Citadel. I can play cards off the top of my library by paying life instead of mana. We've got the Great Hinge. We've got all kinds of big outlets. Meathook Massacre is another ping outlet that we could use. So let's get into a game and see what this deck can do. Alright, so we're going to be playing against a Keruga. Keruga is a 5/4 for 5 that says whenever Keruga enters the battlefield, draw a card for each other permanent you control with converted mana cost 3 or greater. So it's going to be a big Simic value deck, so let's see what we can do against it. This 7 isn't super fast or explosive, but it's got a lot of value in it. I've got a Reclamation Sage and a Tireless Tracker to go early, and then a big payoff with Bolas' Citadel and Old Gnawbone. So I decide to keep this hand and hope that we can clog up the board early game and then make it to the late game to go off with either Bolas' Citadel or Old Gnawbone. I obviously don't have any plays as of right now until at least turn 3, so I'm going to be playing lands in passing. And it looks like my opponent's going to be doing the same thing. They actually don't play anything until their turn 3 as well, and starting with a Replication Ring. I'm just going to take this time to get out the Tireless Tracker. I can start gaining value with the clues and making my tireless tracker bigger and drawing extra cards. They're going to play a Panharmonicon, which can get kind of scary, so I think now's the great time to drop this Reclamation Sage and deal with the Panharmonicon before it gets out of hand. We'll get in there for 3 and pass the turn. Teferi's Tutelage, so it looks like opponent is going to be trying their best to mill me, but this is a 100 card format, so I don't think they're going to be getting a mill win. It's just more annoying because they might hit some good threats. A Mirror Maid, so they're going to have another Teferi's Tutelage here. 6 cards per draw, which honestly, depending on what their deck looks like, could really chunk me for some big pieces of my library. We miss a land drop here, so I'm really thinking, what's the best line to possibly hit my land drops? I've already got value off the Reclamation Sage here, so I'm thinking that maybe I could sack it to the Ashnod's Altar for mana. I'll make 2 colorless off the Rec Sage to draw a card off the clue and grow my Tireless Tracker, but I still miss my land drop, so I'm just attacking for 4. So I'm milling 6 here. And then Karuga, so they're going to draw 3 cards and I'm going to mill a lot. Or no, it's 2 cards per mill, so what is that? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. It's going to be in 12 cards in the bin for me. We're still looking at a pretty hefty library, 64 cards left, so they're really not that close to getting a mill win. Still missing my land drop, but I decide to sack the Tireless Tracker to Bolas' Citadel, and hopefully here I'll be able to cast more spells this way. Bolas' Citadel, I can play cards off the top of my library by paying life instead of its mana cost. So we get the Tireless Provisioner out, we get the Painter out, we get a Revel in Riches out, and here I'm thinking, wow, maybe I can get a treasure win with the Revel in Riches, because Revel in Riches reads, at the beginning of my upkeep, if I control 10 or more treasures, I win the game. We don't really have a great way of producing treasures right now, other than Magda, but I'm not going to be attacking with Magda 10 times, so let's see what we can do with this. I took a lot of damage off the Bolas' Citadel, but it's not looking like my opponent's really trying to kill my life total, more like they're trying to mill me out. So I'm pretty comfortable sitting at 10 here because I know there's no way that Simic is going to one-shot me from here. I'm really just looking for a way to win the game this turn or next turn. Play out a Scoot Swarm, so they're going to have plenty of blockers here. And they're ramping, so their copies are going to make copies. Looks like landfall had a hard time triggering there. And they're passing the turn back to me, so this is looking pretty good. I'm going to play the Black Market Tycoon off the top of my library, along with the dragon here. I know that I can sack this dragon later to make 3 treasures, and we've hit the land. So here with Bolas and Citadel, we need to find a way to get this land off the top of my library. I'm looking through my hand, and I don't really see any way. Fauna Shaman is a good shuffle effect, but it'll have summoning sickness. So I think my best option is to escape the Woe Strider, which will allow me to sack a creature to scry 1. So from here we're going to be able to really start going off with Bolas' Citadel, but the problem is my life total is so low, I don't have a lot of great options. Go ahead and sack the Atushi because I know that that'll generate me 3 more mana. And then we'll escape the Woe Strider out onto the battlefield. I'll create the treasure tokens. We're sitting at 3 tokens right now for a Revel in Riches win. 7 off, and no really great way to make 7 treasures here. I'm thinking maybe if I could get to a Pitiless Plunderer, we could find a way to win with Reassembling Skeleton and make a bunch of treasures that way, but it's a lot of digging. We hit another land, so I'm just going to scry again with the Woe Strider. Black Market Connections. I don't really want this card, so I'm going to cast the Reassembling Skeleton. And I have a lot of mana, so we're going to be able to sacrifice the Reassembling Skeleton over and over to scry until I run out of mana. We've got 6 life to play with. It's enough to get a Pitiless Plunderer win, but the problem is we have to find a Pitiless Plunderer, and I'm not sure if we can really get there. We've got 50 some cards to get through. Goldspan Dragon is a good card, but it doesn't win me the game, and it would put me to 1, effectively making Bolas' Citadel useless. And there's cards that I'm debating if it's worth the 2 life to sack or not. We're just going to scry until we get to something that a Bastion of Remembrance is a great hit because I'm going to be able to gain life every time Reassembling Skeleton dies. So I'll go to 3. Reassembling Skeleton will come in and I'll sack it, letting me gain a life going back to 4. We have to scry these lands off the top of the library. So I'll sack the token that Bastion of Remembrance makes. I'll drain the opponent for 1 and I'll gain 1 going back to 4. We've got a Blood Artist, so doubling the effect now. I'm gaining 2 for each creature that dies. Trigger Blood Artist, trigger Bastion. I'll go back to 4 and scry. We don't need the Sweltering Suns. At this point, we might be able to just get a sack and drain victory. Play the Llanowar Elves, sack it, drain for 2. So this may not end up being a Revel in Riches win, but this was a crazy Bolas' Citadel pop off here. Scry this forest off the top of my library. Drain the opponent for 2. We're getting really close here. I don't want the Gadrak, although it would have just been fine to play for 3, I think. We've got enough to sack the Reassembling Skeleton again and bring it back. For some reason, it's not letting me tap my Bolas Citadel to sack 10 non-land permanents. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's because I don't have 10 non-land permanents on the battlefield. So that would be why. So I decide to go ahead and continue with sacking, reassembling skeleton. Scry these lands off the top. Zorn. I'm going to cast that for 1. I'm going to cast this for 2, just to get to some creatures. Scrying again. And at this point, we have enough on board to drain our opponent out. We don't even really need to sack and scry anymore. We just want to sack and drain. I was shooting for a combo finish, and I actually just stumbled up into one on board as it is. I was looking for maybe like a Chatterfang Pitiless Plunderer combo or a Pitiless Plunderer Reassembling Skeleton combo. But it seemed like I had enough mana to just get there without the Pitiless Plunderer. And this is going to be game. 2 sacrifice triggers will do it. They have a Tail's End. And I'll just sack my creatures in response and call it a game. So that is Korvold, everybody. Of course, we had fun in the match. I really appreciate everybody sticking around and watching the video. If you enjoyed it, give it a like, give me a subscribe. Let me know what deck you want to see next, or how I messed up in the game at all. Any plays you would have done instead. Peace.